Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel and today I'm going to do something, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I think I've been sort of going back and forth about whether to just continue to do like a monthly wrap-up video talking and not really talk about and to talk about all of the books that I've read in a month, or doing something more like a weekly or bi-weekly wrap-up video. I feel like I don't necessarily need to do both. I feel like probably one or the other would be the best option for me. So I'm going to try doing I'm going to start with trying like a bi-weekly kind of wrap-up or review or whatever, to just sort of catch people up on what I've been reading, what I am reading, what I'm planning to read, sort of thing. So I'm going to try doing it every 2 weeks instead of like at the end of once a month at the end of the month. We'll see how we go. Also, I'm trying to get this video done before the air conditioner kicks in because it's going to be like 90 degrees today, and I know the air conditioner is going to be running most of the afternoon, so that's a thing that's happening. And also I apologize if you hear any noises from the rest of the house, the upstairs. Again, I'm trying to get this done before the air conditioner kicks on because that is quite noisy. So if you hear dog barking or people walking or doors opening or whatever, I think that just might have to be a thing that you might have to hear in my videos sometimes, because if I try to wait until I can find the house totally silent to record a video, it's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. So anyway, I did want to talk about a few books that I have purchased lately. A couple weeks ago was, hopefully everybody's aware, a couple weeks ago was National Independent Bookstore Day, which was cool. One of my favorite holidays of the year that's totally made up and kind of meaningless, but also a good opportunity to support local independent businesses, which is a thing that I always like to do. And I did not have the money to like go on a total shopping spree, but I did at least want to go to my favorite local indie bookstore. Shout out Sower Books in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's pretty cool. I love it. It's great. It's only been open since last Labor Day, and it's quickly become one of my favorite places to go. But I wanted to do something, so I did go there and I did purchase one book, and that's this. This is the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition of Jane Eyre. Obviously, I already own a copy of Jane Eyre. It's a quite old little sort of mass market paperback copy that I've had since I was a kid. But I've been thinking about maybe buying a nicer edition, just to have a nicer edition of it, because it's one of my favorite books. I'm literally wearing my Jane Eyre t-shirt today. Jane Eyre is one of my favorite books of all time. And so like, I'm one of those people that like, I'm not usually like big on owning multiple editions of the same book, unless it's something like this, where it's absolutely one of my favorite books of all time. And then I do want to own like lots of different pretty editions of it. And so, yeah, my local independent bookstore had this very pretty, it's got wonderful art. I love the cover art on this. It's very, like, I love the stylization of it. I love the color palette. I love the atmosphere. It's beautiful. The lantern is a little like gold foil on it. The French flaps or whatever they call them, are also really nice. There's some other little illustrations in the book. This is the other sort of French flap, and the back cover has a lovely picture of, actually, I'm not entirely sure if this is supposed to be young Jane, or or if this is supposed to be the little girl. Anyway, So this is a very pretty edition of Jane Eyre. I really like it. I bought it because A, I wanted to support my local independent bookstore on National Independent Bookstore Day, and B, I just really wanted this particular, in my opinion, quite aesthetically pleasing edition of one of my favorite books of all time. So there we go. It was also, of course, Star Wars Day recently. May the 4th is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And I took the opportunity to purchase a few Star Wars books on sale from used booksellers online. So I've done that as well. I purchased this, Tales of Light and Life. This is the collection of short stories in the High Republic. It's the High Republic short stories. Zoraida Cordova, Tessa Gratton, Claudia Gray, Justina Ireland, Lydia Kang, George Mann, Daniel Jose Older, Kevin Scott, and Charles Soule are all contributors to this collection. So, very nice. Got it used for a low price. Excellent addition to my collection. I am planning on, I would like to, at least in theory, collect all of the High Republic books. And also probably most of the comics when the omnibuses come out of the different comic series. Eventually I would like to have all of it because I think the High Republic is very cool and unique, and I want them in my collection, and I really like them. So, yeah, so this is another addition to my High Republic collection. And then, I purchased this wonderful book. So this is The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire by Dr. Chris Kempshall. This is technically a Star Wars reference book, which is why it's published by DK, instead of like Disney, Lucasfilm Publishing, or any of those. DK is the publisher of the reference books. So technically this is a Star Wars reference book, in a, classic line of Star Wars reference books, of which I have several, which are sort of sitting over here. There's a few things that make this really unique, however. First and foremost, this is an in-universe history of the Galactic Empire. So this is written from the perspective of someone in the universe of Star Wars, looking back from post Rise of Skywalker, looking back on the Galactic Empire. So that makes this really cool, first in and of itself. I love a good in-universe history book as much as I love a real-world history book. Yes, obviously, I'm very into that. The other cool thing about this book is that Dr. Chris Kempshall is a real-world historian. He's a historian of the First World War, and this is an in-universe history book written by an actual historian who knows how to write actual history books. So that, I think, will make this really, really interesting, because it comes from the perspective of somebody who actually does history for a living, and the historiographical, I think, concerns that Dr. Kempshall has. I've listened to a couple of podcast interviews that he's done about this book. He seems very, like, his historiographical concerns are very much in line with my own interests in history and historiography, and so I think this will be really, really a fun read for me personally. Like, this book is very for me. So those are the books that I've purchased recently. I also have one more Star Wars reference book that's on the way, has not arrived yet. I did order also the High Republic character encyclopedia, also used from a used bookseller online. So that's still on the way. When I get that, I will probably show it on a video because I think it's pretty cool. I think it will be a very pretty book and a very nice addition to my Star Wars High Republic collection. So that having been said, I have not finished any books yet in the month of May. I am still in progress on I'm in progress on 3 books currently, but I've not finished anything. The first book that I'm likely to finish, because I'm already like 3/4 of the way through it, is yet another Star Wars book, which is, of course, Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, which I've been rereading with my bestie. And this is the first novel in the High Republic series that was published in, I want to say, January of 2021. So, I have read this book before. I really like it. I think, like, personally for me, I do think this is the best possible introduction to the High Republic, because it really does do a good job of introducing you to not just the characters, right? Obviously, a lot of these characters are going to continue to be important going forward in the High Republic, but also just like the concepts and the factions that are going to continue to be developed and built upon as the series goes on. This just serves as a really good sort of crash course, sometimes literally, in all of these things. Especially if you're not super familiar with a lot of Star Wars lore already. This book really sort of, it does in a good way, very much holds your hand and explains things to you in a way that is very accessible, I find. It's also, in my opinion, extremely good at showing us what the stakes are of all of this, right? So it's very much, we're talking about, a lot of people, I've seen people complain that there's like too many story threads in this book, and I'm not saying that's not potentially a valid complaint about this book. There are a lot of things going on, but I think one of the things that does for you, especially, again, as the first book in a brand new series and a brand new era of Star Wars, is that it really shows you what is all at stake here. So we have a bunch of different people in a bunch of different places in the galaxy, and so we can see on a very personal level what all of the stakes are for these people. So I think it does a very good job of that as well. It also does a very good job of showing you that this is going to be, there are going to be some very dark moments, and especially because, again, a lot of times, like, when you read a Star Wars book, especially Star Wars books that focus on the legacy characters or the characters from the movies and the TV shows, it's like, well, I know that this character is not gonna, die in this book, because, like, there's like, they're gonna be in, they've got 3 movies coming up that they're gonna be in, and this is, so like, they're obviously, so like, I know what's gonna happen, so I don't have to be concerned about them. This book, Light of the Jedi, really does a good job of being like, if you're used to reading that kind of Star Wars, this is not that kind of Star Wars. All of these characters are brand new, and you do not know what's going to happen to them. Some of these characters you might come to love in the course of this book, and then by the end of this book, they will already be dead. They will just die in this book. Like, they won't even make it past this first book. And some of the characters, many of the characters will survive the first book, but that doesn't mean they're going to survive the second book, or the third book, or the first phase of the High Republic. This book does a very good job of showing you that immediately and being like, we're gonna make you care about these characters, and these characters are going to be in danger, and you do not know what is going to happen to these characters, which is a little bit different from the usual kind of Star Wars experience if you're reading a book about Princess Leia or a book about Han and Chewie or whatever, like, we don't know what's going to happen to these characters. They could die. They could die. It could be a bad time. And many of the characters in this book are having a very bad time. So yeah, I really like Light of the Jedi. It's a very good book. Charles Soule is quite a good writer. Again, it's one of those books where it's like, there's clearly a lot of table setting going on, because this is the first in a new series. This is the first book in a series that is going to encapsulate, again, adult, young adult, middle grade, novels, as well as comics for both grown-ups and kids, as well as short stories, as well as all this other stuff. So there's a lot that it has to introduce you to in a very relatively short amount of time. This book is only about 400 pages long, or a little less than 400 pages long. And so it's got a lot of work to do, but I think it does a pretty good job of doing that and keeping you very engaged. I know I'm very engaged in it. I know my bestie, who does not consider themselves a huge Star Wars fan, my best friend does not consider themselves a huge Star Wars fan. In fact, they said to me the other night, they were like, I'm having a really hard time maintaining my identity as not a Star Wars girly because you keep showing me the Star Wars stuff that's like really, really good. And yeah, this is really, really good. So that's The High Republic, Light of the Jedi, Charles Soule. But yeah, I'm like 3/4 of the way through it. We'll be getting through it probably within the next, probably by the time next time I talk to you, I'll be finished with this. I am continuing to make good progress on Anna Karenina. I've just passed the halfway point. So yeah, good progress, frankly. I'm enjoying this. As I've said, I am really taking my time with it because it's a lot. And this is my first foray into Russian, 19th century Russian literature. So, you know, I'm trying to take it all in. Obviously there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of characters to keep straight in my head, but I'm enjoying it thoroughly. I did have some moments, the other day when I was reading this where I was like, oh, that's what they mean when they say Russian literature is like that. Levin, the character Levin, pretty much embodied for a while there just the "guess I'll just die" meme, which was, like, it wasn't funny, but also it was kind of funny. I was kind of laughing, like, that's just me and my millennial humor, I guess, but yeah, the "guess I'll die" meme is, like, I just couldn't help thinking about that every time he was like, all I can think about is death. And this life is just so futile to me, and I don't, you know, I have no reason to continue living. And I was like, well, yeah, to whomst among us, right? Whomst among us cannot relate to that. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I am really loving the interplay, particularly the compare and contrast between Anna, who is a wife in a loveless marriage who falls in love with another man and is suffering for it, and her brother, Steva, who is a man in, he would say, not a loveless marriage, but who is also chronically unfaithful to his wife, and is definitely not suffering for it, right? Like, absolutely not suffering at all, right? And in fact, he's basically living his best life. Right? Like, the book literally, famously, the book opens with, you know, the line, you know, every happy family, happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way, right? That's sort of the famous opening line of this. And what it's describing Anna's brother and his wife having a rift because his wife discovers that he's been unfaithful to him, and she's mad about it, which, you know, as you would be. But of course, you know, there's a whole storyline about how she's convinced to forgive him, and later on in the book, she's, you know, talking to Anna's husband, and she's saying, well, you know, I forgave my husband, why can't you forgive your wife, or whatever? And it's like, but your husband is still cheating on you, girl. Like, he's still just being chronically unfaithful. He cannot help himself, seemingly. And, but the difference, of course, is that she doesn't really have a choice, does she? Like, she's just kind of stuck, right? She can either be mad at him and make everybody in the house miserable, or she can forgive him and pretend like it doesn't matter to her and that she loves him anyway. But she doesn't have any recourse, right? She has no legal, like, recourse, really, to do anything about his unfaithfulness. Meanwhile, Anna's husband, like, he has all the power in that situation, and her life is pretty much entirely in his hands. So, yeah, the compare and contrast there is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's enraging. It's a little bit enraging. As it, I assume it was intended to be a little bit enraging. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he's just expecting his readers. Maybe Tolstoy is just expecting his readers to be like, "Yep, that's just the way it is." But you know, as a 21st century reader, I'm constantly like, ooh. But yeah, so this is a good book. I'm enjoying it, having a good time. And then finally, I just started another book. So I have 3 going right now. I started reading this one, The Eagle and the Heart, The Tragedy of Richard II and Henry IV by Helen Castor. So this is a nonfiction history book about Richard II and Henry IV and the Henry IV, or Henry Bolingbroke's deposition of Richard II, forcing him to his to be deposed from the throne and taking over the throne of England. Yeah, I'm only 1 chapter into this. I just started it, and I'm already very, very captivated by it. Helen Castor is quite a good writer. I've heard of a couple of her things before, but I had never read her before, because she has written, among other things, she's written a very popular biography of Joan of Arc, and she also wrote She-Wolves, The Women Who Ruled England Before Elizabeth, which is another book that's sort of been on my radar, but I had never gotten around to it. I know it was, like, adapted into a BBC, like, documentary miniseries, and it's about, like, you know, Eleanor of Aquitaine and, like, Matilda, and people like that. And so she's been on my radar for a while, but this is the first time I've ever actually picked up one of her books. And yeah, I'm, again, like, I made it like 30 pages in, like, first chapter, and I'm already, like, I'm hooked. Like, I'm very, very hooked. And one of the things that she has done a very good job of, even right from her introduction, is making this whole thing very topical, right? Because, like, what relevance does a medieval succession crisis in England have to do with, like, everything today, right? And I mean, it kind of does. She is definitely drawing some pretty strong parallels between the way that Richard II ruled, with the way that certain authoritarian leaders of countries in the 21st century are attempting to create cults of personality around themselves. She's definitely drawing some strong parallels there. And I think that's really interesting, and I'm interested to see in what ways she sort of teases out those threads of connection and how those sort of play out through the course of this book. So again, I just started it, just got through the first chapter. But yeah, I'm already in it. I'm in it. And yeah, again, like, I'm not, like, super familiar with this whole thing. This is happening at the end of the 14th century, so, like, I think it's 1399 when Richard II was deposed and Henry IV took the crown. So most of my familiarity of this comes from Shakespeare, right? I'm familiar with the Shakespeare plays about this, because he, of course, did a play called The Tragedy of King Richard II, and he also did 2 Henry IV plays. Yeah, that's really what I know that from. So I'm really interested to get into a sort of more of a deep dive of, like, it's like a 400-page book just about these 2 guys. So yeah, that's what I've got going right now. Honestly, I'm not sure what's coming up. I'm really bad, as always, at planning ahead. I was just saying to my friend the other day, I should probably pick up something a little bit lighter, because I've been reading a lot of really heavy and or dense things lately, and right now is no exception. So I might just, like, pick up, like, the next Terry Pratchett, right? Like, Guards is next. Maybe I should just do that, because I want to, and it's fun, and it'll be a quick read. And it's a little bit lighter. I also have like a T. Kingfisher Romantasy Sword Heart that I want to read. It's sort of sitting on my TBR shelf waiting for me. But I also have a bunch of like series that I want to finish or continue. Like I really need to get to Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. That's sitting there waiting for me, and that'll be the end of a trilogy. Like I do want to knock that off my list. I also have Sunbringer by Hannah Kaner, which is the next one in that Fallen Gods trilogy that, you know, it's sitting on my shelf. It's ready for me. So I don't know. I have a lot of stuff upcoming, and I also am going to be trying to continue my High Republic reread / read that I've started with Light of the Jedi. So I'll probably be continuing that as well. So yeah, always so much to choose from, and we'll see where my whims take me. But yeah, that's what I got for this week. It's just a bunch of bought some books. I'm reading some books. I'm enjoying my books. What have you got on the go? What books are you reading? Have you read any Leo Tolstoy? Have you read any Russian literature? Do you feel like some of it is just the guess I'll die meme? How's your summer plans going? I will say I may skip another week of videos because next weekend I'm going out of town for just a couple of days, just to, you know, get out of town for a couple of days. So I might be delayed on some videos next week again, but that's fine. It'll all be fine. The world, you know, the world is hell, but I continue to persist. So that's really all we can say. But yeah, let me know what kind of books you're reading in the comments below. If you did you pick up anything good on Independent Bookstore Day or for May the 4th? Let me know. And like, subscribe to this video if you want, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.